Howdy folks, welcome to Little John's. Sitting down, having a little bit of drink, a little bit of the Bullet rye whiskey, and we're going to have a chat about adjuncts. Yes, it's a taboo subject in brewing for a lot of parts, but we're going to talk about it today. But before we do, quick shout out to all the patrons. Cheers guys, the support's much appreciated. A shout out to a couple of the newer patrons, Lyndon Davis, Stephen Gregory, Steve Orell and Thomas Farmer. Yeah, that's it. It's great to have the patrons showing a little bit of support. They get some bonuses. Speaking of bonuses, I've just been out. I've just posted off a couple of packets of yeast to a few of the lucky patrons who won the raffle for the month. If you're interested in becoming a patron, would like to check out what it's about, check the link down the bottom. If you aren't a subscriber of Little John, hit the button down there in the corner and the bell, get notified when videos are on. Come along, that way you won't miss anything. Anyway, that's it. Adjuncts. It's a word you see a lot getting thrown around in brew circles, adjuncts, and people, some people get their knickers in a knot. They get a bit carried on about, you know, oh, you shouldn't use adjuncts and all the rest of, you know, it's not right, it's wrong, blah blah blah. So let's look first at what an adjunct is. Essentially, in the big picture, an adjunct is just something that you add into a product that isn't necessary to be there, and it's added to the main ingredient to supplement it. Just excuse a little bit of the noise in the background. I've got the Robo Brew sitting there, it's just doing some cleaning. Hopefully it shouldn't come off for too long. So yeah, so adjuncts are added separately. So in beer, our main ingredient is barley. Now, and the adjuncts and the issues really go back to the German purity law. Now, I'm not going to try and pronounce the word. I've seen it written, and I've never actually heard it spoken. Certainly not by a German who would pronounce it correctly. So I'm not going to have a crack at it, and I'm not going to have a crack at the date. But it's bloody hundreds of years old, and it's traditionally the rules around making beer, and basically said the beer can only be made from barley, yeast and water. So anything else that was added was not pure. And this is where you get your adjuncts. So technically, in a beer perspective, from brewing side, anything you add to your wort that isn't barley is an adjunct. That's a little loose because wheat particularly has become quite common in beer, and the Germans are very big on wheat beer. And as far as I'm aware, I think they were the originators of the style. So that does blur some lines. But for the most part, when we're talking adjuncts, we're talking about products, ingredients that are added to the brew mainly to produce more alcohol or to reduce the cost of the overall brew itself, which is more a commercial sort of a thing than a home brew thing, or it's just used to adjust body and to some degree flavour of the beer. So adjuncts have become more commonplace in recent years in all sorts of different ways. So just a quick chat about really what some of the main adjuncts are. And the first one that pops to mind, especially if anyone keep brewing, is sugar. Now, for the sake of the I've got dextrose here, bag of dextrose, pure glucose, a refined sugar. Now, that is and this isn't part of the focus of the video, but if you're going to use sugar in a brew, that is your desired white like sugar. If you're going to use just normal sugar, that's your preferred method. You don't want to use some white sugar, or you can use some of the browner sugars, but again, we're not going there today. Another thing that gets used a lot is rice. Now, everyone's aware of the use of rice. There's a lot of rice lagers. So most of your lagers coming out of Asia and are heavily rice influenced. Your Chang and there you go. I'm just gonna draw a bloody blank here. Singer, Tiger, Asahi, Sapporo, Bintang, all those Asian and even Indian beers, like they're heavily adjunct laden beers. I'm not going to quote any percentage because I don't know exactly what the percentages are, but they've got a good whack of rice in them. Talking maybe 20-30% of the fermentables come from rice. In the home brew world, generally the easiest way we use rice is like this: flaked rice. Just grains of rice sort of basically just rolled out and crushed, so they're accessible. Another popular way that with home brewers is to use rice malt. Now this is just a jar I've picked up from the local Woolies. Now I normally don't have this stuff sitting around, but I am doing a lager coming up, and I'm thinking that I may do some with some rice malt. I'm not sure exactly whether it'll be this batch or a coming batch. I'm going to do an all grain lager, which is going to be more for myself, but I'm going to do a batch of a kit, which they are going to be for here on the channel, but it's going to be for the father-in-law, and I'm thinking I'm going to do some playing around with some rice in that, and possibly another adjunct, which is corn. So this one's not, gets used a bit. So I said another one is corn. Corn is very common. Obviously, Mexican beers particularly are well known for being corn beers. A lot of American lagers have a good whack of corn adjunct in them. And it's the same as, what if it's just flake corn, or I'll use actually cracked corn and they do a cereal mash. It's a bit of mucking around. So normally for home brewers, this is to use the flake stuff. I've used polenta, which is just corn, plenty. For brews, same thing, it's basically a cereal mash. Make a porridge and add it to your brew. Drop it in. I'll put a link up to the Brew in a Bag Cerveza, which is, top of my head, I'm not sure, but it's about 20. I think it's about 20%, maybe even 30% corn in the grist. But what we're looking for with any adjunct is to add something to the beer we're starting with. Now, as I said again, that depends on what you're looking at, and a lot of the time, look, this fella, the dextrose, is used for adding alcohol. But as I said, your adjuncts will pretty much add alcohol and not much in the way of flavour, particularly the dextrose and the rice. Corn will add some flavour, but it's not as heavy as adding more barley, or wheat, but it will add some flavour. But when you're looking to take a beer and drop the body down a little bit make it a little bit thinner, a bit lighter. This stuff gets used a lot, and the rice as well. Now, rice gets used a lot in Asia because obviously there's a lot of rice. They've got plenty of it. It's cheap. It's an easily accessible commodity. Sugar is not quite so easily available. So, yeah, rice is their chosen method. Same in Mexico and South American countries with an American side. Corn was readily available. There was plenty of it. It was cheap, so it was easier to use that, was more economical than to use barley. Back in the day in America, barley was very expensive, hard to come by. So when their breweries, I'm talking back when around at the end of Prohibition, and even before Prohibition, that their barley was very low quality. So the corn was consistent. So the corn was used more because they were able to control what they were making. So they just kept doing it. Americans have become used to having these corn lagers. So it's why a lot of people have trouble with American lager, particularly when I'm saying America, I'm talking about the USA, North America, because their core beers are so much laden up with corn, and they're very thin. The reason they're thin is because adjuncts, for the most part, are very, very fermentable. I've discussed this on different videos. I'll link up the video for adding ABV to your basic beers by using different sugars and stuff, and that goes through in a bit more detail on the process. But basically, your adjuncts are much more fermentable than your barley is. So the same amount of adjunct will give you more alcohol and less body than the same amount of barley. So if you're trying to avoid the sweetness and the heaviness of an all barley beer, then you go to an adjunct. So they do get used quite commonly, quite a lot. Plenty of beers use an amount of sugar commercially, and you're really not aware of it. They don't talk about it and don't mention it most of the time because it's technically it's a non-existent ingredient. Because if you use sugar, it ferments out, so it no longer exists in the beer. So there's a technicality that says they don't need to tell you about it. So yeah, it's a little bit of fucking mumbo jumbo, but that's the way it is. But as I said, in recent times it's becoming more common to embrace using different things in the brews. Craft beer are going, okay, well, we're using this stuff, we're using rice, we're using corn. Even to the point now they're starting to use fancy corn. They're using, they're using purple corn and bloody black corn. They're using wild rice and stuff like this. This rice syrup, this one is actually made from brown rice. Now, and it says on here that it's 80% carbohydrate, about 60% sugar. So that says to me that's still going to leave a little bit of body in your beer, and will lose some flavour. Which is why I want to sort of play around with it, because I believe that is going to be different to using this, where I think this should give me, probably 85–90% fermentability, leave pretty much nothing in the beer and leave very little flavour-wise. But as I said, that's an experiment. So, as I said, if I'm talking about kit beers and putting down a kit beer, I always recommend, an amount of malt and an amount of dextrose in pretty much any kit beer. It's not a lot of it, but it's some, because it plays its part. And that's the thing with all adjuncts, it's knowing the part that each one's going to play and how it's going to play its part in the beer you want to make. And if you're happy for that to happen. As you've seen on previous videos, I've now made 2 corn beers. I made original corn beer with 60% corn in the mash bill, and people absolutely loved it. One of the most well received beers I've ever made, possibly the best. Everybody just loved it and commented about the flavour and how nice it was. So there's clearly flavour coming from obviously the corn adjunct. Rice may be a different story. So I have no problem using these things. I said again, it's using it in the right way and in the right quantities. So don't be afraid to use them. I mean, this is all part of home brewing. Playing around, experimenting. It's the same as the commercial brewers. They're out there, they're trying all sorts of things. 10 years ago, if you'd said that someone was going to put chocolate cake into a beer, or mashed up cookies, or bloody there's so many different things that are going in. Nuts, any sort of fruit you can think of. There's just so much new things that are being put into beer. It's a whole new world, so it's all different, and there's just this massive range of flavours and finishes that come along with those. And if you cut those extra things out of your brewing, then you're potentially missing beers that may be fantastic. Maybe that best beer, and I've discussed this on a previous video, maybe that best beer you can make has corn in it, or has rice in it. And if you're not willing to have a bit of a go at it here and there to try, then you're never going to know. Now, I get that some people want to stay pure and they want to stick with that purity law, and they're not going to put in there for whatever reason. I mean, that's fine. At the same time, that's fine. It's your beer. If you don't want to branch off the main road, stick to the main road. That's fine. Just be aware that by sticking on the main road, just like when you're driving around the country, there's an awful lot you're not going to see or experience if you don't go off the side. But that's choices. So anyway, that's Adjuncts. If you got any comments, any questions, stick them down the bottom. Obviously, I've not gone through any process on how you actually, also how you use them. It's fairly straightforward. As I said, there is that video on the Cerveza. There's videos where I've used different things, oats and things like that in the mash. But if you've got any, as I said, if you've got any questions, you want to clarify something, ask down the bottom. Jump on Little John's Facebook. Ask the question on there, whichever. Always happy to answer questions. As again, if you're a subscriber, excellent. If you're not, hit the button down there in the corner. Patreons, again, cheers. If you want some hops, enjoy them. That's me, Little John. So until I see you again, we're drinking beer, talking beer or brewing beer. Good brewing.